Here's the deal, fellas. Honestly, we have been talking more about fleet design than we've been talking about or playing the game at all, like the last couple weeks, to be honest. But I think we're closing the gap down, all right? But here's the thing. I am more and more focused on the Crucible now, more than ever, at this stage, and repair ships, because the more I'm thinking about this, if we're trying to design a fleet that's going to be mobile, capable of dealing with hostile enemies, NPCs, players, creatures, things in the universe, um, and we're not going to be having a mobile base like the Pioneer to produce, um, vehicles and stuff on the ground, and then be able to set up a base with that and be mobile. I feel like repair is a vital part that I have I wouldn't say I overlooked it, but I underestimated it is what I would say. Um because so far like I had basically one Crucible and the Kraken, and those were the two repair ships for the fleet. But honestly, if there's any ship that I probably should double down on, it would be the Crucible. Just because there's a lot of potential in the ship itself. If they had any reconcepting, like for the Pioneer got reconcepted a little bit, but the Crucible I could see potentially getting reconcepted a little bit as well. It has repair drones. What's the difference between repair and construction? It doesn't seem like it's that far off, to be honest. If drones could build a spaceship inside of a hangar, and that's probably why they want to use these repair arms instead of drones, because if they end up changing this from drones or from repair arms to drones, then I don't see any real reason why it wouldn't be able to build buildings, which is already a big point. And if the Pioneer is already a base builder fabricator and able to mine materials in the ground, then that opens up the door for the Crucible being a smaller, large version of that. Not being able to mine the materials, but being able to, base build or um, fabricate some items inside of these hangar modules. So I think that's already an interesting concept potentially. But if they do have these repair arms and stuff in here, and this ship is able to fully repair a number of fighters, what's the difference between repairing a ship fully and like a fabrication bay potentially on a ship? And I understand that fabrication, you have to make every single individual part, you're not repairing everything, but I don't see why the Crucible couldn't potentially be slated for like modular bays to attach to this. Like a base module, a habitation module or something, or a fabrication module just to build ships out of this when you land on the ground. But repair also is just fundamentally, I think, something that you need more of in a ship fleet, because I've been thinking about this more and more, that if we go to a planet's surface and we have a fleet with, you have miners, you have starfarers, you have your cargo ships, you have your ground vehicles, your base building vehicles, all of that. If you don't have a pioneer and you don't have access to a production facility to replace those, then you basically have to use repair. You have to keep your ships tip top. If you get into a big battle, if I go to a planet and I get into a fight with a player org above the planet's surface, I still have to stay on that surface and continue to defend myself. And the only way to do that is to have repair ships. Now, if I lose one crucible and I only have one, then I've lost the ability to repair all of my capitals. So now I'm leaning more and more into repair ships in general, and also as the core of a organization. I feel like that repair is a fundamental part of an organization, and being able to provide support for other org members. So you have org members that want to do cargo, you got org members that want to do, base building, mining, search and rescue. You got people that want to go and explore and find stuff in the universe, or go salvage, or go space mine. All of those functions all require repairs to stay in the field. So repair is something that touches every aspect of the game, and I think having more of it in a fleet is going to be better than and less. You know, so now we're looking at potentially I will postpone trying to get like a Starfarer. Again, I might try to look at it a little bit later. We have um, a buyback that we can get for 10-year insurance, Starfarer Gemini. But we have people that we know that are wanting to make a gas production organization, and I've noticed that a lot of people that I've talked to, most of them have some sort of gameplay loop they want to do, and they have their small group of like 4 or 5 people that want to do it with them. And so you have like people doing salvage, you got people wanting to do like Starfarer gas, you have people want to do mining, but um, they all want their own individual orgs. So it's very difficult to get people to, you know, remove themselves from one org to go into another. But if I can absorb all three of those groups of people and work with them in the game, I don't care if they still have their org, as long as, we can work together and function together as a group, and provide each other utility. And if I can provide them the supplies and the repairs to keep them doing their job and the protection, then they can focus on doing what they want to do, and making money through their different professions. And for me, like, I like the idea of repair and upgrades, and I also like the idea of exploration and finding things on the ground, which I know will require me to keep, my equipment healthy in order to keep going. And the Crucible, when we look through the Q&A of this, because anything of this can change, but I mean, you're looking at a ship that basically had like 200, 300 SU of cargo space. It had a bay that they said in the past Q&As that it could fit a Cutlass in it when the hangar top was open. But at a minimum, if this detaches, you could put ground vehicles in here. You could put, a couple of fighters in here, you know, or you could just leave it empty if you want. And that provides a little bit more utility when it comes to a fleet battle, if you can put like a few arrows in here or something. But also, from some of the pictures that we've seen with this, and the Vulcan, we see repair drones attaching to ships and repairing them. But no one really has said that you can't, for instance, repair ships mid-combat. So, say like your Perseus is fighting, and then you just have your Vulcan or your Crucible behind it, slowly repairing like any damage that happens to it. You could just rotate your outer ships in, and then bring them back to the Crucible and repair. And if we have two Crucibles, we might be able to repair twice as fast, or repair twice as many ships. Or if we're on a planetary surface and a Perseus goes down and crashes on the ground, it gets damaged, we can afford to send out one Crucible to try and go and repair and get that ship back operational, compared to just, sending one of our the only crucible that we have and risk it going down. And now if one crucible goes down, you have a second crucible that could repair the first one potentially, which just compounds the usefulness of it, you know. And then in a fleet design, this would give us the ability to provide support to pretty much any organization that we can find out in the verse if we run across them. So we don't necessarily have to fight them if we can alliance ourselves with them. They need repairs, they're damaged, we can provide that for you. You have a ground base, your ground vehicles are damaged, we can provide this for you. And it gives us, room to operate on the ground, which I like. And it gives us more time to build a ground base and get set up on a planet before we actually need to start producing vehicles, because as long as we can keep our stuff healthy, we don't need to build replacements, and that's going to be a very big deal, I think. And I also like the idea of this being more useful potentially when it comes to going into hostile like NPC space, like Vandal space. I don't necessarily want to risk taking a Pioneer into Vandal space, but I would risk a Crucible potentially. I need to look at the crew capabilities real quick though, because I'm curious about the crew cost. So it's slated for 3 to 8 crew, so you're looking at probably something similar to a Pioneer, is what they're saying. But I would expect this to be less, honestly, unless this is just a super sophisticated ship, because the Pioneer was already slated for like 10, I believe. It was like 8 or 10. Yeah, 4 to 8. So you're saying that a capital size Pioneer ship takes the same crew as this Crucible, which right now isn't slated to be um, a big deal. Also, I didn't know that this was limited sales, which is interesting. But if we get 2 Crucibles, you're looking at almost 500 SCU slated right here. Bigger crew requirements, yes, but I think the flexibility of it's just too great. And it's not a ship that you necessarily have to crew in the middle of a combat situation, I wouldn't think. Like, you could easily just put, fighters or like an Eclipse, maybe a few arrows or something in here, fly these things out and have like a backup squadron of fighters inside of the ship and just use it as like a refresh point, in case you need to ship in more fighters. But I really like the possibility of this being a fabrication type bay, or having modular bays that you could bring on here. And then having 2 Crucibles means that you could detach those and kind of operate on your own. And the fact that it detaches alone just puts so much utility on this, because for a ground base, you put 2 Crucibles down, you detach 2 bays, then you have 2 repair facilities that you could have on 2 different ground locations and 2 flyable repair ships, even though these might be overkill. And I do kind of expect them to go to drones instead, but we still have the drone issues. If they put repair drones on this, instead of these grabby arms, I don't see how it possibly, um, how they keep you from using it as like a base building ship or something. Because there's not much difference between building a ship and building a building, I wouldn't assume. But it's not as specialized as the Pioneer. So even if it got all of the functionality of the Pioneer besides mining resources out of the ground, I think it would still be a unique ship. So go back to this Q&A real quick. These are all pretty old, but also it's only 350 bucks right now. It's one of the last, planned anvil ships, it seems. Unless they pop out another anvil ship out of nowhere. I mean, they haven't ever talked about a capital anvil, and they've said that some manufacturers aren't going to get capital ships. I would expect, Anvil to get a capital ship at some point, but every time that they've built an anvil ship, because ships grow in size constantly over the years when they improve them and they slowly bring them up to standard, but they've been very, very serious, it seems like, about keeping anvil ships underneath capital size. Like, they don't have like any of these that grow. They try and keep it from going into capital size as much as possible. The Liberator, they were trying to keep from getting massive as well. So everything with Anvil has been smaller, and it's Anvil's supposed to be like the modern military in the game, which is more interesting, I think personally. Honestly, if they had like an Anvil ship that shot like torpedoes and stuff as like a capital or something, that'd be kind of interesting. But so it can store ships in the bay and jump. Crucible can repair everything, anything except itself. Really makes you think. Now, this is something that I think is very interesting because, as I said before, if we don't have production on a planet, if we don't have the ability to produce vehicles to replace our losses, there's no way for us to really keep the numbers and equipment going to win in a fight if we end up getting into a fight. But if the Crucible can repair any ship, this means potentially we could fight and disable enemy faction ships and then go and repair those ships and use them on our ship instead. And I like that idea because if we manage to say we have lifetime insurance on all of our fighters and our big ships, and we are able to manage to bring down, a big, Perseus or something on a fully upgraded tier 5 Perseus on the enemy team. If we're able to take these crucibles and go and repair that and take possession of that ship later, that would be really nice for me. I think that would be really cool. And it's something that I always thought I would want to do in the game, but I always, like, when I think of it, I think salvage. Like, when I think find abandoned ships and take them, I think salvage. And the more I'm thinking, I think salvage is going to be more like that satellite mission that we did the other day, where we went into there was a satellite that crashes on a planet, and you go and you find AI blades out of it, and you go and put it. That's what I think salvage is kind of turning into, where it's like if you want to find really high tech components or you want to find some AI blade parts and stuff left over in military ships, I feel like that's where you're going to find those kind of that kind of equipment. But when it comes to like repurposing a ship and taking them, I feel like these repair ships are going to be kind of where it's at. If I find a reclaimer in the universe, or if I cripple a reclaimer, if I am able to repair it with a crucible, I would prefer to do that and just have a reclaimer for free. And the same thing goes with like any NPC ships, the Connies, the Cutlass Blacks, all of that. And if you go down to a planet's surface and there's NPCs that are able to, spawn and attack you, or say we go to Pyro and there's NPCs there that attack you and you're setting up a base or whatever, as long as we can disable those ships, we have the option to repair them and increase our number of ships that we can use on the planet's surface without having to produce them ourselves. And I would assume that repairs or um, I would say like capturing ships or repairing ships would probably be quicker than producing a ship from, the ground up. You don't need as many materials, all of that. You don't need to worry about the components as much. And as long as you're able to keep refreshing and reusing your enemy's stuff, then it'll be really nice. And, if a crucible can repair a crucible, that's where it'd be really nice. Because you look at this, it says there's a good amount of capacity for self-repair. Internal components are fully accessible for repair, and most minor damage should be handled by the ship itself through the use of EVA, onboard tools, and drones. Major hull repair might require a dry dock visit or another crucible, as the repair arms don't reach the entire ship. So as long as you have two crucibles, this would be really good. But what's interesting is because they mention a dry dock, and I know that this document's old, but for right now, like from what I understand, dry dock I think is a shipyard. If I'm recalling correctly. Let me just look up the definition of dry dock. Yeah. I'm gonna assume it's a shipyard. But only capital ships really have to go to shipyards. So if this thing does get pushed up to a capital, I think that's kind of a major deal if we just think about this a little bit. Like when I think salvage and I think claiming a ship, let's say that you run across a javelin, all right? You got salvage teams going out, they run across a javelin in space and they want to take it. Well, a reclaimer isn't going to be able to just fix that ship and do it. They only take the ship apart. But a crucible could actually go out there and repair that ship and get it functional again. This is like a big thing where I'm just like, for 350 bucks, you have the possibility of claiming any ship in the game. And then think about all the ships that you're going to run across in the universe. Like right now, you have Starfares, you have Connies that you find in missions, you have Hammerheads that you can find in missions. And I know that you're not going to have insurance or anything on them, but if someone's upgraded them for you and it's basically a free ship, why not? Um, yeah. Can the garage be left floating in space while the Crucible repairs larger ships like the Constellation? Yes, the Crucible garage is meant to be able to undock and redock, but to repair larger ships, one does not necessarily need to undock from the garage. The larger ship repair arms and drones should be used in making repairs on larger ships. So it's talking about drones here, and honestly, I don't see these repair arms really doing what they say they do. I mean, maybe they're going to be like salvage arms, like instead of putting, maybe instead of like stripping the hull off a ship, they're going to be putting the hull back on a ship. So it'd just be the flip flop inverse of a salvage ship. But when it talks about drones, that's where I'm like, why couldn't the ship build things? Why couldn't this build a base if you're able to build ships? Because we're already seeing, like, they talked about space stations and stuff and being able to build um, Idrises and not Banu defenders, Beagle carriers and stuff on the spaceships. But if this thing can repair those ships, then surely it would be able to do something along those lines of like fixing buildings or something. What's the largest ship a Crucible can repair? How are ships larger than this repaired? Right now, we have fit in most of the single singer ships without issue, but the Cutlass actually fits within the garage with the top open. This is before any reworks or anything, so it's probably going to grow in size. Maybe the Cutlass will still fit in there, maybe not. We'll have to see. But if a Cutlass does fit in there, that's a pretty big boon to have. To just have like two Crucibles with two Cutlasses on the inside. We're still developed. It needs to handle all of the military style single seaters with a particular focus on the anvil designs. So, Hornet and Gladiator are fairly big. I'm not the biggest fan of the Hornet, but I could see me potentially pushing for a Hornet later because the Hornet kind of fits our design philosophy a little bit more than what we were kind of wanting. Personally, I was wanting stealth ships. I wanted to run sabers. I wanted, or not, yeah, sabers and firebirds and stuff like that. But we're probably going to be starting off with arrows. But the one benefit, because I kept thinking about this for a long time, the anvil ships with the Hornets, they have a lot of firepower. They have better armor, and the big important feature is they have fuel scoops. And that might not sound important for anybody, but like the more I've been thinking about this, it's like, where would you use fuel scoops at? Completely, it doesn't even, like, in my head, doesn't even make any sense at all to me, because in my head, if your ship has a ton of more armor on it, it's going to weigh more. You wouldn't want to use it in atmosphere. But on the flip side, the Hornet being able to have extra armor could potentially make it stronger in hostile environments, planetary environments, and stuff. And having a fuel scoop means that you don't necessarily need to produce as much gas to use for your fleet. Because right now, as it stands, pretty much all of the Aegis ships don't have fuel scoops that we've been using. So our Redeemers don't have fuel scoops. We have to fill those up. The Valkyrie, I think, has a fuel scoop. I'm not sure, maybe not. Um, but the Connies and stuff, Yeah, so no fuel scoop on the Valkyrie. That doesn't make any sense to me, but especially when it has these two big imports on either side. I feel like that should definitely have a fuel scoop. But the Anvil ships, I think what they're doing is when they made the Valkyrie, right? They said that the Valkyrie was like lore wise, the Valkyrie was built with artificial intelligence, and they asked it to design a dropship for the future. And so the Valkyrie is specifically designed by CIG and stuff to not be like a space vessel. It is built for ground planetary conflict. It vents oxygen if it leaks, all that good stuff. And I think this is why they're making all the Anvil ships smaller, because they have a lot more armor than a lot of other ships, but they still need to be small enough to get through smaller jump points and be able to go to planetary surfaces. Because if you have Anvil ships that are like as big as a Banu Merchantman or a Carrack or something, or a Kraken, they're going to be very sluggish and slow in atmosphere, especially with the extra armor. So when I look at Anvil ships now, I'm starting to think small, ground efficient craft. When you're defending yourself, you want Hornets for the most part. If you're doing like stealth attacks, stealth runs, sabers. I like the sabers. That's why I wanted them. Stealth, you go in, you see the anti-air defenses, you launch long-range missiles, you blow them up. But if someone attacked you, I would prefer to have a Hornet because it's going to take more damage before it gets destroyed, and it has a lot more firepower, and you don't have to worry so much about fuel because you can just park it on top of your top deck and then just chill, and it will slowly regen fuel over time, which means all you have to do is keep the hydrogen fuel produced, and you'll be solid for the most part. And you can store a lot more quantum fuel if you don't have to worry about hydrogen fuel, and you can use that hydrogen fuel on bases and things on the ground. So interesting idea. Um, from the sales page, which will be necessary for larger repair and salvage operations? They're quoting them there. Can we expect a different salvage scarab module in the future? The ship will have limited salvage capabilities due to salvage and repair sharing some actions and mechanics, but we will not go into more detail on salvage, hopefully soon. Stay tuned. This is interesting to me. If it does have the ability to do some salvage, I'm expecting it's probably going to be um, probably like hull scraping, I would assume, small stuff like that, because it's probably mostly going to be drone focused, and we know that the Reclaimer has salvage drones. But if this goes back and forth, then it's kind of a cross section, because the Aegis Reclaimer and the Anvil Crucible would end up both having access to drones. Aegis Reclaimer having salvage drones, Crucible having repair drones. What's the big difference there? Is a salvage drone, able to repair to some degree, but like not as efficiently? Is the Crucible drone able to repair really well, but not be able to salvage very well? There's some trade-offs here, and I think potentially I would be more okay with having worse salvage potential than having worse repair potential. Um, but maybe that's just me. I don't know what the trade-off necessarily would be, but this is kind of interesting. Um, so, but it says, but we will be going into more detail on Savage hopefully soon. So I don't think they ever came back and talked about this again when it came to Salvage and the Crucible. No one really talks about the Crucible that much. I guess most people don't care. It kind of flies under the radar. But potentially one of the best ships that you could have. Like, even in like any organization that you can think of, I mean, you need repair, and whatever you're doing, if you can repair your ship and stay in the area, then I mean, it's worthwhile just to repair your ship in the area. We'll be able to repair fighters en route, or will we need to be stationary until the repairs are complete? Right now, we plan for external repairs to be done while the ships are stationary, but we do plan to allow for fixing smaller ships within the garage during transit. Think of the crucible as a dry dock for small ships and scaffolding for larger ships. Ships that fit inside the garage are properly can properly land and will move with the crucible. This is like they keep talking like dry dock. Dry dock for smaller ships. Is a narrow basin or vessel that can be flooded to allow a load to be flooded in and then drained to allow that load to come to rest on a dry platform. Dry docks are used for the construction, maintenance, and repair of ships, boats, and other watercraft. Repair and construction. Repair, maintenance, and construction. If the crucible can manufacture small ships, that is a game-changing thing to have when it comes to a fleet, especially like mine. If I can manufacture like small ground vehicles, small cargo transports, small mining vehicles, that is a huge deal. And putting it as a dry dock is very, very important. But for me in particular, producing small ships is way more important than actually, um, you know, producing large ships. I don't need to produce a Carrack. I don't need to do any of that. But if I can produce Pisces, if I can produce arrows, if I can produce Hornets, that's a big deal. And when it comes to an anvil fleet, because everything's small, it almost makes me not even need a Kraken at that point. Because if you think about it, what are we getting from the Kraken? We get some fuel, we get some repair, we get some landing pads, and some guns. But if you have two crucibles, let's say that each of those are holding one ship apiece, and you have two liberators and two Carracks, then you have, four upper pads on each liberator, or you'd have four upper pads on two liberators, and then you'd have two, so you basically would have six landing pads for fighters, or whatever up top, and you have the ability to replace and repair them. That's pretty crazy. But this is hope, a little bit of hope, but it makes sense to me that the Crucible would be able to build and repair a ship. Why would you be able to stick a ship in there and, not get it built? Like, how could you not build a ship if you have all the parts to repair it? If you can repair anything that's wrong on any ship, you should be able to build those ships. And it also would make things more mobile, you know. And I don't like, even if they capped it off and said, hey, they can't build capital ships, only the space station can build capital ships, I'm fine with that. Being able to build a Kraken, or not Kraken, like a Crucible or a Liberator or a Starfarer, like that's a lot of flexibility. Does the Crucible still have, wait, does the Crucible still have the Miller ERS or the towing capabilities? This is the other thing is the towing. I'm a big fan of towing actually, and I really like the SRV. But if the Crucible can tow by itself when everything's said and done, that would be very nice. I would like that a lot, and it would replace the SRV for me quite a lot because towing ships out of planetary orbit with an SRV is already kind of wonky, and I can only imagine trying to tow big stuff out. But if you can tow like, you know, Connies or Hammerheads, stuff like that with a Crucible, that'd be really nice. And potentially maybe that has something to do with the repair arms and stuff. You have like little tractor beams or something, little tow beams. Yes, the Miller ERS has been re- yes, the Miller ERS has been replaced by repair drones. While we are exploring how to meaningfully enable construction actions on the scale implied by the Miller ERS, we have also discussed how towing might be handled, but don't have solid answers on that implementation yet. towing actions are likely to be fairly limited for a single ship. If they are ultimately factored in at all, we are also thinking about a dedicated tug variant. See, I don't think a dedicated tug variant, I don't like the idea of that. It would be, I mean, a dedicated tug variant would be fine for like peaceful space, but doesn't seem like it'd be very useful when it comes to anything else. And like, who wants to drag a tugboat all the way through the ends of space in order to move a ship? You know, I prefer just to get a repair ship, repair it, and then fly it out of atmosphere myself if possible. But maybe you need the towboat. I would say, make it where you when you detach, like you use the tow beam to keep the module in place in the back. You detach the back module, you get to activate the tow beam on something else and pull it because that module is fairly big. So as long as you could just activate the tow beams and pull something out of the planet surface, that'd be fine. Even if you needed like two of these to move like a javelin out or something, or like four of them, I think it would still be fine. I don't know what the Miller ERS is though. Citizen Miller ERS. Uh, Wave 5 confirmed. See, so it says construction actions on the scale applied by Miller ERS. External repair structure. Oh, I think that's the scaffolding, because originally it was supposed to build scaffolding around capital ships to do repairs. That would still be an interesting concept, though. I think there's a lot of possibilities when it comes to the Crucible, especially with building. Like if it becomes a dry dock or if it has any ability to build ships at all, it's going to be a big deal. Is there any gameplay that would require multiple Crucibles to be working in unison? Crucible is capable of repairing a majority of damage attained by a ship. We do not have multi-crucible gameplay in our plans for the near future, but we are looking ahead to scenarios where multiple ships might be more quickly repaired. A crippled larger capital ship such as a Bengal. I think as a smaller org, you're going to have to cannibalize some of the equipment from bigger orgs. That's the only thing I can figure. Like, if I have an org of 100 people, let's say we have 100 people, we're going around, we're flying on planets. That's like an average guild size in an MMO. Like a really good guild, like a max level guild in a lot of MMOs is 100 people. Um, there's organizations in this game that have 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people plus, and you think that you're going to be able to compete with them in a PvP fight or a resource battle, it's not going to happen. But you might be able to find some of their like lost ships, destroyed ships. Maybe you pick a ship off here or there, and you're able to claim it or tugboat it away and repair it and get access to some of their components. Would be really nice. Because right now the only like they said size 3, size 4 components you're not going to be able to get out of ships anymore. You have to go and get them repaired at a station or something. I'm assuming the Crucible can still repair at least size 3 components, if not size 4. At least get them functional. But the only way you could possibly get those things out is with a salvage ship or flying the ship out, I would assume. And is it better to just take components from a high level organization, find their ships, take their components, and use them, or is it better to go and try and farm them and buy them yourself? And I think being able to fight at least competently, smartly, picking off a ship here or there, and repurposing their ship for your own needs is a lot more valuable than just um, trying to salvage that ship and take the components out and use them in something that you have already. But can I use my reclaimer to salvage ship components and then use my crucible to reassemble them? Crucible does not fabricate components. It can only repair components that already exist. So yes, but you will use the salvage materials to repair other components, not to assemble new ones. See, I'm still split on this. Like, still in the process of designing salvage, but ideally we want both systems to work in tandem so that one could salvage minerals and then use those same minerals in repairing another ship. I just, I'm very split on this because I feel like they should just allow the Crucible to fabricate some stuff. You have the Pioneer as the capital all-in-one base building ship. It has your manufacturing, it has your mining, your refinery, all that stuff in one. The Crucible could be one step lower, have the ability to manufacture small ships. It doesn't have the ability to mine stuff. It doesn't have the cargo capacity. It doesn't have a refinery in it. It's basically like, what's the difference between building a small spaceship and building a base um, structure, you know? It's just metal. Even if you say that the Crucible can't build components, why can't it build a hab? Why can't it build a structure on the ground or a refinery, you know? It seems useful to me. And then the fact that it can detach the pod on the ground is just another bonus. Like, you fly the crucible in, you drop the pod off. The pod is your fabrication area. Then you unload your little base building vehicle, pop up your first thing, start building your refinery facility on the ground, and then you pump those materials back into the fabricator to build more bases. And I think that would work perfectly fine, and it wouldn't be that crazy. You know, you pop that thing on the ground, the people in the Crucible can just go fly around and do repairs and stuff on the surface or move stuff around so they, aren't bored out of their mind with nothing to do. And then you have people building stuff on the ground. Using it as a garage would be really great. How long do you anticipate it to take to repair a single heavy damaged Hornet? Crucible with a repair crew of one would probably need 15 minutes to repair a heavily damaged Hornet. A full crew would find it a struggle to repair the same ship fast. What? A full crew would find it a struggle to repair the same ship faster than 2 or 3 minutes. Now, this is also why I'm very curious between this and the SRV, because if the Crucible can't tow, I'm going to be forced to try and figure out somewhere to put SRVs. And the only place I can figure out to put an SRV is inside the Crucible. But say that you're in the middle of a combat fight. You have 10 fighters, they have 10 fighters. Y'all go slug it out. Both of y'all lose, 4 fighters or whatever in a trade. And you send out SRVs and just drag these fighters back, and they're saying that you can repair those in 2 or 3 minutes, and you have two crucibles. So like in a minute or two, I can have like all those fighters, boom, back up, ready to go. And if it's that fast and it's faster than producing them inside of a production facility, that's kind of worth it. Because if you get put behind in the production facility, if you manage to wipe out someone's air defenses and they're sitting there producing more fighters, you just keep coming in, keep taking their fighters, keep repairing them, and keep growing your fleet. That would be kind of interesting, but I still think it should have production facilities. Also, if this is a production building, like if they allow you to build base habs and stuff with it, you wouldn't be able to do repairs while that's happening. So it also kind of puts you in this situation where like you need to choose what you want to do. You got to kind of be tactical with it, and it gives, what are you supposed to do with the repair ship? If you're a solo pilot, you're going to sit in peaceful space your whole life and sit there and do repairs. No, you're going to want to go out into the universe and find some people to repair in battle zones and stuff. So why wouldn't you just be able to take a small amount of supplies, go out to a planet, drop down, build like a, you know, temporary like little base fortification, and then open up shop. You have a little couple defense turrets to protect you. People come in and they get repaired and stuff in your little garage. Boom. It's like no one wants to park a garage on a planet and then get raided by pirates every 2 seconds. So you'd probably like, even if the ship doesn't have base building functionality, you would stick a ground vehicle in it. You would stick one of those base building ground vehicles. You pop the thing on the ground and you unload the ground vehicle, and the ground vehicle is going to be base building for you anyway. So I don't know. I think it would just be really nice if it could produce some ground, like even if it could only produce ground vehicles. Let's say that they say like, oh, you can't build spaceships in here, even though it fits fighters. If it can produce ground vehicles, I would still be fine with it. Produce me some Ursa rovers, other base building vehicles, be great. I don't know if they have anything else with the Crucible, but also like the dry dock definition, because they mentioned dry dock multiple times in the Q&A. It just makes me feel like it would be able to be a production facility for ships. I don't even care if it allows you to build bases right now, all right? As long as like if it can build small spaceships or small vehicles, that's all you need, because this right here is a dry dock. It's a place that you build ships or you bring them in and you do maintenance on them. So in my head, they've already opened the door to small shipbuilding in that thing. It's supposed to be able to hold fighter-sized craft. And if you can build fighter-sized craft, then there would have to be something that you could build. What's the smallest transport ship? Uh, would it be Zeus? Maybe we can look up ship sizes. Star Citizen ship sizes. God. They said specifically that it's supposed to handle all of the anvil ships, and the Lightning is an anvil ship. I think it's bigger than the Hornet. Size small. Medium fighter size small. See, Legionnaire. Legionnaire size small. Okay. I'm filling it a little bit. SRV. Small. Alright, I'm down with that. Terrapin. Small. Right on. Valkyrie's medium. I know that. That's fine. Uh, what's the Vulture? Oh, that's the repair ship. Small. I'm good with that. Small salvage. Nomad. Small. So Nomads, that would be a small amount of cargo. I don't know what the biggest ship. What's a small ship that has a lot of cargo? These are all the options that we have. Wait, it's saying the Valkyrie is small. This has to be old. Size small, it's medium. I don't know. I mean, if it's built to handle all of the anvil ships and it could build a Valkyrie, the Valkyrie has decent cargo capacity, but Valkyrie's a big ship. It's not. problem is, where's the prospector at? Oh, prospector's here. Okay. That's a lot of flexibility potentially. Like, look at all the anvil ships that are in there too. And you have access to Archimedes and all that. I just like that's a lot of flexibility. If you could potentially build like the Legionnaire, building that would be nice. Troop transport, all that, solid. SRV, like you could build the basics of like anything that you'd really need for the most part. SRV for towing ships back to the Crucible when you need it. You know, prospectors for mining some of the bigger rocks on planetary surfaces that you're not going to be able to mine with ground vehicles. And they already said that they're splitting up um, the resources when it comes to mining and stuff on planets. So you have underground materials that like the Pioneer and stuff can dig out, and that's what I think that new Drake ship is going to be as well. And then you have hand mining, vehicle mining, and ship mining. So hand mining does gems right now. Um, Vehicle mining, get like hydrite and stuff like that, whatever else they put in there. And then ship mining, you're going to at least need a prospector to start doing that. So if a Crucible could build a prospector, that would be very nice to be able to get that going. And also building a basic vulture would also be very nice to be able to, salvage some of those smaller planetary ships and get a little bit more supplies there. They probably won't be useful at like salvaging, the big ships, but I'd be fine with that. I mean, that's not a big concern, especially if you're like trying to repair them with a crucible or something. Um, Avenger has 10 SU. I really don't think there's anything. Literally, SRV has 12 SU. Valkyrie's the biggest thing there, but I feel like this whole list is wrong. Ship matrix. Size small. Okay, so all of these are small ships. And then it jumps right into It has the Valkyrie marked as small. Are these all wrong, or because the Valkyrie goes on a medium pad? Where's some? Let's see, Urkel. Oh God. Because there's no way a Valkyrie's a small ship. If the Valkyrie's a small ship and the Crucible could build a Valkyrie, I'd be down for it. Was it 60 SU? That's fine. And it has plenty of extra space in it to store crap, so no problem. Let's see. What kind of options do you have here? I mean, we can go ships. I don't know if you can sort by size, though. Size 1. Pisces, Cyclones, Dragonflies, Furies, Moles, Pulse, Rock and Rock DSs. That would be very, very good, actually. If you could produce Rock DSs in a Crucible, that's nice. Produce ground vehicles. It's like all of the entry-level vehicles that you would need to start manufacturing on a planetary surface. I'm down with that. You land, you produce a couple prospectors. I don't think there's any see, or so Hornets are size 2. Gladiator, yeah, Hawks. Hull A. Hull A is a size 2. That is I mean, it says 64 cargo, but I mean, it's still a cargo ship. Hurricanes, Mustang Betas, Prospector, all the Sabres, Terrapin, Vulture, A1, well, no, A1 Spirit size 3. But I don't think it's, so it doesn't have the Valkyrie in that. Size 3, you get into like Freelancer Mists and stuff. As great as that would be, I would probably be fine with up to size 2 ships. You mainly just need the ground vehicles and then the startings of like industrial loops so that you could land on a ground and start producing some money. See, but if you got to size 3 and you're producing moles and stuff, that's a bit much. But this also means like because they have medium and large buildings, if they have, we saw that the large production facility can produce big ships like these. I don't know if it was a Spirit. I don't know what ship they produced. It might have been Star Citizen, Citizen Con, base building. I think it was a Spirit that they had. It's never the video you're looking for that pops up. It's one of these, I think.
Storage. Multiple freight elevators. There is a puzzle that we need to achieve our goal, and it is this: our very own fabrication hangar.
Fabrication hangar.
Does anyone want to guess what we're going to build in a fabrication hangar?
So the tower, they said, so basically this tower that he's in over here, this, he said, was built by a unreleased vehicle specifically made to build this tower, which I'm pretty sure is the crane vehicle that we've seen in the past. An anvil like Atlas platform with a big antenna in the back. And you've also seen a crane, but I think that antenna Atlas platform is going to be what builds this. And this builds large structures. So imagine this combination. You come down, all right, you land your crucible right here. Boom. All right. Crucible undocks its little, cargo thing, or its a little pod, or it just sits there, either or. That's your starting base. You're living in the Crucible. You got your little factory. You got your little storage. You have maybe some ground mining vehicles on there. You have a base building vehicle on there. You're good to go, right? You don't have a refinery though. That would kind of suck. But maybe you have enough supplies to build a refinery. So you go in, you use your ground vehicle, you pop up this tower, boom, you got your small vehicle manufacturing plant over here. You use your other resources, you build a mining thing and a refinery. Now you got minerals going in. You can produce more ground vehicles to do more ground operations. You can start producing like rock miners. And then what you would have, what would it be? What was the vehicle that we just said? This is you wouldn't have anything to move the rock miners with. I guess you could use the crucible to move the rock miners around if you really needed to. You would get your base going, and then you load up the rock miners and stuff into the crucible, pick the crucible up, fly over to where you're going to mine at, and set it down. That'd probably be the best option that you could have, because what size is the ballista? Size 4. That's kind of a problem, because if that base building vehicle is on the Atlas platform, it would probably be a size 4. Oh, that's a problem. But if the Crucible, I mean, I would like the Crucible to be able to build up to size the Atlas platforms, but if they could just repair it, that'd be fine. The Andromeda and stuff, because that would give you access to Andromeda. If you can build Andromedas, that's what you need to move the mining ships around, but I think that's too much power if you get it to build those. And you still wouldn't have, like, you would have to, like, you have to have gas for all that. Oh man. But it would be really interesting, like, even if it doesn't produce, like, they say it doesn't produce components. If it's if it's producing small vehicles, it wouldn't necessarily need to produce components. You know what I'm saying? If you're producing fighters and you're producing God, I keep forgetting what we're looking at when we looked at this. Was it size 2s? So you have the Nomad, like the Nomad, the Terrapin, the Vulture. If we get into size 3s, that's where that would kind of be like the cutoff point, I think. But if you could produce these in a dry dock and you couldn't produce any of the components, then you could just bring the components with you before you produce the vehicle. Or while doing missions, you just hunt down NPCs or find wrecks, salvage wrecks of smaller ships and pull out the components from those, and then just make do with what you can find. Because actually, if the Crucible can repair ships and it can repair anything on these smaller ships, if you could salvage components from other people's stuff, you could just repair those components to like max health and then stick them inside of the other ships that you build and you'd be solid. So you just slowly stockpile power supplies and stuff, which would be interesting. Surely it would be easier to find small, like vultures and small parts than it would be to find bigger parts. Because I believe constellations have size 3 components. And that's going into size 4. Vanguard Wardens. Aegis Dynamics. Size 3s, you're getting Prowler and Moles. I think size 3s have. You get the Misk Freelancer and the Cutlass. Let me look at the Cutlass real quick. Should be size 2 shields. Okay. So let's do freelancer. Size 2. I'm looking at these because they said size 3 and size 4 components are not going to be like removable in the future. So we wouldn't be able to repurpose parts into smaller vehicles if they have size 3. But if the Cutlass Black has size 2, Freelancer Dur has size 2, then that's perfectly reasonable, I think, for being able to build and transport around on a surface. And you could store extra size 2 components on a ship probably fairly decently. Even if you had to do it before you left, it'd be fine. Let's see the mole. Medium mining. I don't know what the difference of these is. Yeah, so this has a size 3 power plant. So I don't know if all the size 3 ships have size 3 components, but you could make do without these. I just think it'd be a neat idea to be able to like find components. It'd be a reason for people who aren't into salvage to actually go out and hunt down some components. Like you get into a dogfight, you beat a fighter, it lands on the ground. You don't care about necessarily going and salvaging the ship, but if you could go and scrape or get all the components off of it and then put them into a different ship that you can build yourself, it's more worthwhile, you know? And then pilots might actually want to like go back and claim their spoils or, something along those lines. But I mean, conversely, I guess also you could just send in a Vulcan. Send the Vulcan in, repair the ship to where it's flyable, hop in, try to get it back to the crucible. It just take more steps. So it is interesting though.
Idris, maybe not an Idris, if I'm honest. And we'll see
See
what's in
some of
store
this
for
stuff,
Anger.
like I never really
Multiple
slowed it
freight
down
elevators.
and looked at all this
What you
that's
can
in here, but like,
this will allow you to do storage.
see, because you have these refinery plants. I don't know what size all of these buildings are though, because they had a size like a medium, and then they had a the large buildings, and I think these are two separate bases. But then like you look at some of this, and it doesn't really look that big. But then when they talk about the Pioneer and they're talking about extra large buildings and how it could take weeks to do an extra large building, you got to think that extra large buildings are probably like huge. You imagine a refinery that's this big, massive.
And then when retrieving it on
But
freight
like
elevator
even
B,
this is all
there is a
large
distance limit,
buildings.
but you can daisy chain the elevators together to.
So you like see it back there. See this back here is where they had the medium structures. I thought maybe I'm wrong because they did the power. Maybe that
Extend
was
that.
part of the large building still.
We might want to invite more people to join us. Can even build their own structures if they wish.
Like this is just a large structure
We
is
can also give
perfectly
them access
reasonable.
to
I think
existing.
it doesn't seem like it's. This is a good size. All right, like if, I can't see myself needing a much bigger building than this unless you have like 5,000 people in your organization. Like I can't even imagine how big an extra large maybe Microtech, New Babbage. That's probably an extra large building. I almost bet that's what an extra large building is, I would assume. It's going to be like a town. Extra large building will be like a town on a planet. I'm guessing these are like water pumps or something.
Now we always want a safe place to store our ships.
So you got medium, large, small hangars, construction hub on. So foundation square, foundation triangles. They said that those basically flatten out the ground. Living quarters, solid matter, large solid matter, large solid extractor, Freight elevator. Small construction hub. Medium construction hub. Small liquid refinery. Small liquid extractor. Large hangar. So is the construction hub, if that's the manufacturing facility, then what they just showed us earlier, I mean, it might be a large, but it seems like it would be like this medium construction hub because they didn't build a large ship. They built a medium ship or something.
So the trusty hangar will do.
You imagine breaking into someone's hangar on a planet? To come over here and drop a bomb right on that hangar door and like look inside, and it's just ships everywhere. Or actually, like you could just have like cargo, just dump all the cargo in the big hole in the ground. But like, look at all this. Like, do you think they manufacture? These are like NPC ships right here, though, because they have that like that green tent that's only on those NPC ships half the time. I think that's something no one really noticed during CitizenCon as well. I think they were showing NPCs in the base because when they mentioned the Pioneer, they said that the Pioneers for people that want to build bases and manage NPCs.
You see, it has this large, we call it a foundation tile. It's quite special, and it can actually deform the terrain around it for making need to achieve hangar. Does anyone want to guess what we're going to build in a fabrication hangar? An Idris, maybe not an Idris, if I'm honest. We'll have a drive around, we'll go to the entrance, and we'll see what's in store for us.
I almost wonder if like if you, because like no one buys ground vehicles, but honestly, I think I'll probably buy some of these base building ground vehicles. And then I kind of like wouldn't mind having Rock DSs and stuff just to have it when the game comes out. But I don't think it's going to be worth the in-game money. But if you could like build those, like they get destroyed and you just rebuild them yourself, that'd be nice. Also,
An Idris, maybe not an Idris, if I'm honest. We'll have a drive around, we'll go to the entrance, and
the vehicle seems to be driving different. This seems to be driving a lot smoother. I don't know why this was pointed left when he went right, but it seems like the vehicles are driving sooner. And when he gets out, it sounds like he like put the parking brake on or something. So I think they changed something with the ground
we'll see
vehicle.
what's in store for us.
Like, see how smooth it is? And you hear like parking brake and the ding. I really need to like come and slow motion go through these videos and just check stuff. I haven't did that stuff in a while, but I like doing it just to find like little details sometimes. I doubt there'll be much with Star Citizen though.
Looks like whatever it is, it's just about finished crafting.
But like look at this. Like does this not kind of look like the pictures that they show of the crucibles like little attached detached pod? Because they have a door like this that's on the backside of the crucible that shuts when it detaches, and then they have an upper section that looks into the bay when it's getting built. And I would assume there'd be something like that in this base as well. But let's say this is a repair bay. You know, you got the ship in there, you're repairing the ship, boom, boom, boom. You know, are there fabricators inside of this this bay that's producing this vehicle right now? Because I really don't think there are. You know, unless you have to like fabricate the component somewhere, stick the component in an inventory, and then that component fills down, and then it produces this. Or if this is like a blank ship with nothing in it. See, that's the spirit, isn't it? I don't know crucible ships very well, or Star Citizen C1 Spirit. Yeah. So that is a medium ship, size 3. I like how they listed the fire extinguishers and stuff on here now. Vehicle parts. Size 2 components. Size 2, size 1 components. I'm saying 64,000 SEU. That's probably just 64, I would assume. Yeah, 64 SEU. So I would be okay with 64 SEU. I mean, that's not terrible, you know? And I don't necessarily care about the C1 Spirit. I'd be perfectly fine with like Cutlass Blacks, to be honest. When it comes to like transporting stuff around a planet, Cutlass Black would be perfectly fine. You know, it gets damaged, it gets damaged, it gets destroyed, whatever. Easy to repair, you know. But I'm guessing this is a large or a medium production facility. And look how small it is. Like, unless the crucible is just way smaller than this, I just feel like it would be able to build some of this stuff, you know? And even if it isn't able, like, this is a medium ship. So let's say the crucible's only able to build the small ships. Prospector, Vulture, what was it? The Nomad. I'd prefer something else that had cargo space that didn't look stupid, but like SRV, um, ground vehicles. I don't know what you would use for cargo though. Nomad's like the best thing you could get. But I like this idea. Like there, you don't see any, unless these are fabricators here. I don't. Only thing I could figure. But I mean, this looks like it would be a crucible design to me anyway. I mean, you got the top part that's opening for the ships to come in. It's already on the ground, so all you'd have to do is make this to where the crucible could pick up either side of it. You know.
Of course, we were going to build ourselves a ship.
See, a lot of these I'm just curious about. I don't like. I like the idea of having a big ground base though, like a central hub. But I mean, this tower is also kind of cool. I also feel like it's very simple. You know, simple, tall. It's like a guard tower, except for it doesn't have guns. All they need is like an upgrade for this to like put a turret on the top of it, and they just take that ground vehicle, build like 4 of these, and then build you a little base. Good to go. I'm actually surprised that they didn't like show us a weird base, you know? Like they show us this base, production facilities, all that, get you hyped. But like, you know somebody's going to have like a prisoner colony or something. How are you supposed to like monetize that? If someone just puts like a fortified armed base, they go and they cuz when you're in pirate space, I'm assuming, people are going to get captured on occasion and then they're going to get brought back somewhere and thrown in a brig. You don't see any like capsules that are lockable or anything. So we got guys. I'm telling you, like they have to have AI that's good in this game because I have a hard time picturing like yeah, I'm sure people will do it. I have a hard time picturing though that someone's gonna want to like hand walk boxes around in your base. Like look where are they walking to? Wait, what is that? Oh, that's a nomad. So, see, nomad. But as long as you can produce ground vehicles, I mean, let's say that they don't have a few ground vehicles in the game yet. If they have like an anvil cargo truck that you could build to move supplies around, I think that would be fine. If they have like, because you could always load it up in the crucible and use the crucible to move it around if you really had to. But being able to just move things on the ground in general just seems like it'd be good. Producing ground vehicles would be really nice. See, but these have to be NPCs. I feel like that's what they're showing us with this. Like, do you think this whole like base is is people? Because like no one talked about this at all during CitizenCon, but like when they started showing you this base, it was that guy and his friend. That was it. And then we look and you got this. Like that's a dude who parked his Pisces next to a building. Okay, that's fine. But like NPCs probably have like very specific routes and places that they land. They wouldn't land a vehicle right here, all right? So this is some guy's house out next to the lake. That's a little thing. And then you got this stuff. Like, do you think all of these are players right now, or are these NPCs? Like this caterpillar's coming into land. You've seen multiple caterpillars. You have these like Avengers and stuff flying around doing like protection. You got these Hercules transporting stuff in the background, and then it looks like they got like um a Vanguard and stuff parked down here. But it's like see like Caterpillar coming down, Caterpillar taking off. I don't think this is only just players. Like this, I could see this being automated by NPCs. You already see them trying to do this kind of stuff in bases and or in outposts already anyway. So it wouldn't be that difficult to like take the AI from the outpost and then put them into AI at your base. The same sort of thing they did in Fallout. Fallout 4, you build your base, you hire NPCs, you give them tasks, they go out here and gather crops and shit. I feel like that's the same kind of thing that's happening right here. But I mean, if they wanted to fake this, I guess they could always have built this base around an outpost or something. But I feel like this is saying that NPCs, like this is what they're planning for the NPCs to be doing. But look how big the reclaimer is to this. Like, this is something I'm curious about because, like, what keeps somebody in a reclaimer from just bulldozing, like full on sprint, just bulldozing your command tower down? And then you can't build any large buildings anymore. Just boom, over. But these look like liquid extractors for like water or something going on here, which would be nice, or maybe like fuel. That'd be cool. Little island base. The thing I really wonder how like common ground vehicles are going to be in the game, because I feel like everybody's going to be flying spaceships everywhere. Like, what are the odds that you're going to like look off in the distance and just see like 400 ballistas and tanks just rolling over this hill and then trying to get across this lake over here, you know? Like, usually people are probably just going to like fly a spaceship down and nuke this place. But it is defensible, I can give them that. Like, no one's gonna be able to just drive across this water unless they make like Ursa rovers and stuff, amphibious vehicles where you can just coast across the water like nothing. Also, that looked like a medium base because the large things, there was three of them before and they looked bigger. This one looks smaller than the other base, but quite a lot. Almost looks like an airstrip, but hmm. Prospectors. This one's prospectors. So prospectors and rafts. Maybe a cargo area here and a mine or something down there. I don't know what the hell that is. I'm assuming some sort of refinery or mining facility. I'm gonna assume a refinery. Probably just sending like prospectors out, mining rocks, and then coming back to the refinery. See, stuff like that's what I'm looking at right here. Like, these Hornets seem like they're going to be very good for base defense, but they're not going to be so good at assault. But like, they took out that Cutlass Black, boom. Cutlass Black crashes. Then you got to think like, all right, do you leave that Cutlass Black there? You're going to salvage it? You're going to try to repair it? You know, you want to just produce another Cutlass Black? There's a lot of things, but like, if someone landed a bit, like say someone landed a fleet like over here in these mountains, and you all ended up getting into a fight, you have a pre-established base here. You know, you probably got a lot of stuff going on, an organization backing you, and then they have to try and get settled, and you decide to attack them. Like, they have to be able to defend themselves at some point. Like, you send 4 fighters over there and they manage to shoot them down. Well, if they took big enough losses, then it might not be worth it. If they don't have any repair functions, then they're not going to be able to keep going, you know? But if they could pick your ships up off the ground and turn them into new ships, and now they have 4 more fighters over there, they got a chance. That's a big explosion, too. What hit the ground over here? Oh, okay, I got it. There's an A2. Yeah, this. So, interesting, they have these like small laser turrets down here. They're not really doing a whole lot though. I'm guessing this ship and these are on the same team. This just comes by and one taps these turrets, it looks like. Like, look at that. That's what worries me right here about like building bases, because you already have people that are dropping bombs on players just doing normal everyday missions just to fuck with people. And you think that somebody isn't just gonna like fly over this and drop a bomb? And like those turrets, let's say that these turrets and stuff are here or whatever, and this is just a solo player. What's stopping them from flying like 15,000 meters up in the air and dropping a bomb? Just boom, right there. Imagine if this is a refinery, it gets damaged, it goes critical, the whole thing blows up. You got problems. And honestly, bombs, that's probably the one thing I don't have a lot of in my fleet. I don't have bombers. I don't even have torpedo boats, really. I have Perseus. So, like, if I'm going to attack something like this, it's literally going to be a big, fat Perseus flying over here, shooting bombs down here in size 5 torpedoes. Think those laser turrets are going to stop stuff? See, but like stuff like this, you see, they have reclaimers and all this in the background. You got Polaris, you got Idris, reclaimers. I don't know if I still want a reclaimer in my fleet or not. I just don't know how useful it is because until it can do something besides just get scrap, I don't know. Like the size 3 and size 4 components would be nice, but it can't do anything with them. You can't put them into another ship by itself on a planet. And then if you don't have a reclaimer, you're going to have stuff like this just floating around in your base all the time. You get shipwrecks and stuff everywhere. And I don't think a vulture can disintegrate this. Maybe the vulture can like break off parts and slowly take it apart, but it's kind of a problem. But like imagine that this is another org and it has this is a very very upgraded javelin. How do you like what benefit are you getting out of this? Like you get the guns off of it, but you can't take the power supply or anything else out of it. You can't reverse engineer parts. Like it'd be interesting if like this blueprint system that they put in because no one really asked because they basically said that if you earn or unlock a blueprint it's yours forever and no one can steal it. But on the flip side, like if I destroy 15 of your fighters and they all have the same components, I feel like I should be able to study those ships and you know, learn your blueprint or at least learn some of it to like compete. This would be a huge thing if you could just like go on this javelin and like let's say that you took a crucible and you repaired this javelin and then you landed that javelin in your hangar and you just kept it in there and you have like a research hangar. You park a ship in the research hangar, you set it in there, and every day you just sit there and you're doing calculations or whatever mini game they want you to do, and you get like a fraction of the information on how to build some of these components. I think that would be really cool and give you a reason to do like research gameplay, or something like even like something in the base. Like you're gonna have research gameplay. I'm assuming you're gonna have research modules for like base building. So like, what are they gonna be doing if they're not studying components and stuff and organic material on planets and things? Who's that? Got an Idris on the ground. Honestly, like the Idris on the ground doesn't look nearly as bad as I thought it would. I'm still iffy on this ship though. I like it though a lot. If I get to the point where we get an Idris, it's gonna be like you do Polaris, we would drop this for an Idris. That's like the natural progression. If the org gets big enough, you grab an Idris at some point, and then the Polaris becomes like your submarine. but I don't think this ship's going to be nearly as good on the ground. Because like if you look at it, like the Polaris has a couple of like quad turrets and stuff up here for defense. It has point defenses. This probably does as well, but you have to aim and charge up this rail cannon when you shoot it at people. Those torpedoes you don't really have to, but the torpedoes can get shot down. But also if you build a base on the ground, how are you supposed to defend against these things? Like if someone has an Idris with a size 10 rail cannon on it and your base is over here in the distance and they line up a shot and just one tap your production facility, like what are you going to do about it? You going to like fly over here and try to fight this guy? Cuz like you'd have to have a shield, I guess, some sort of big ass shield. Whereas like a Polaris, you shoot some torpedoes at it, maybe your little AA guns are able to shoot the torpedoes before they hit your base, but this, I don't know. And then if there's anything else that shows up, like a Hercules, like you have to be able to stop Hercules bombs. A javelin, God forbid, that shows up, shoots a, doesn't even have to go into atmosphere, just like shoots a size 12 torpedo from space directly down on top of your base. That would suck. Oh yeah, I was gonna look at some of these ground vehicles I could have. So fuzzy though. Do they have a lot of these like fuel containers or something on the ground? See, all these mining facilities and stuff is really nice. But see, you got constant caterpillars and stuff going in the background. But the more I look at stuff like this, the more I'm just interested in like fleet repair and stuff in general, because like they just went through combat or whatever, right? So like surely their hangars and stuff, they're gonna be able to repair their ships, but just having someone like show up and is like, "Hey, we got you." Like you send out an SOS, we come in and try to help you in battle, and then just start doing like fleet repair on your ships. Like you tag us in, we fly in, we distract the enemy and get your ships repaired, and then we fucking book out of there. Solid. This is just one area too. Look at all those hangars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 11 hangars over there. But also, like, what's the optimal way to build your base as well? Like, you see that we also don't know what the radius of these buildings are, because you see this is one of those building towers right here, and you got a building tower right here, and I'm assuming you got a building tower over here somewhere. You got a building tower right here in the background. So it looks like you have a small radius for each of these large building towers. And it's weird that these building towers don't seem to have any defense. Like this little antenna that's sticking up, if that was like a size 5 cannon or something, then you'd have cannon, cannon, cannon for like defense over here, and that'd be nice. But like, what's the optimal way to like protect your base from getting destroyed? Because what happens if someone drops a bomb right here where these hangars are? Like, does the inside of the hangar collapse? Does the inside of the hangar just stop existing when it's destroyed? Can you repair it and like dig everything back out of it and get back to your ships and stuff that are stuck in there? I mean, there's a lot of things with this that I'm very iffy on, but with our fleet idea and our fleet concept, potentially we wouldn't really have to have hangars like this. You could just park your stuff on the ground and keep everything repaired with your repair ships. Still risky, but like if they're saying that your ships log off when you log off, then you might not necessarily need hangars if you have exactly every ship that you need for a mobile base. But any excess vehicles like this you might want. a hangar for to keep on site when it comes to cargo and transportation. What happens if like all of space becomes civilized? That'd be a question that I would want answered. We go and civilize all of space. We got NPCs going everywhere fine.
So to kick us off, called in the help of a friend who has a specialized, not yet revealed base building vehicle.
Specialized, not yet revealed base building vehicle. And I'm swearing that is the crane, my fellows. It has to be. Star Citizen base building vehicles. Although it says not yet revealed. Wait, didn't he say not?
To kick us off, called in the help of a friend who has a specialized, not yet revealed base building vehicle.
Not yet revealed base building vehicle. All right. Oh, low sec, null sec. See, all the people who are arguing about me with like the with Pyro because they said it's like a lawless zone. I just keep thinking about stuff like this. All right, high sec, land claim must be purchased, full protection, highest taxes. UEE space, low sec, land claim, owned by independent corporation, gang, or faction. Does that sound like Pyro to you? Sort of. Don't have access to all the best planetary resources. Partial protection. They also said you could get mercenaries at some point. Null sec, no land claim, base is vulnerable. Partial protection. That seems weird. AI NPCs will show up if attacked. Can build defenses to mitigate. So shields and anti-air. No cost, high financial return. This is... I don't know why NPCs would show up and defend you here. But everyone that was arguing with me was saying that like Pyro is lawless, so they just and then they just swapped it over to crime stat. But if you have AI protecting you and stuff, it's not necessarily lawless. You just can't be put in jail. I mean, it's just crafting, rare shops, attained via reputation rewards, mission rewards, rare shopkeepers. Does it seem odd that they said that you could find blueprints and stuff throughout the world? But this is saying reputation, missions, and rare shopkeepers, so like it feels like you're not gonna kill a sandworm and then like a blueprint's gonna get spit out of its mouth. Unless there's like a mission to kill the sandworm, I guess. But collect from around the universe. Common, refined, unrefined. What time is it? Yeah, I'm gonna hop off after this, but everything is fabricated from a blueprint. Acquired reputation rewards, NPCs, rare NPCs. Can do research on blueprints and research variations. Can find common to ultra rare materials in the universe or at shops. Okay. Different size fabricators for all sorts of things. Decoration, armor, weapons, components, and ships. Fabricators produce a physicalized result. Stats on fabricated items are determined by material quality used. Now, this stuff over here is like kind of what I was interested in a lot. Law status hostile. Pyro 3. Construction vehicles. Small, medium, large, and extra large. This is the hand surveyor. All right. And then we know that this is like the medium buildings or whatever now. But this one, they never really told us anything about it, I don't think. But this is saying small to medium buildings. But we know that this is doing medium buildings. So small, medium. I would assume this is what builds that tower. Because it kind of looks like, this thing goes over, starts building the tower, and you're like, you're good. But then you got this, because this is saying small and medium buildings. This is saying small, medium, large buildings. And then this is everything. But this is base building and fabrication. They never said anything about the galaxy having fabrication as well. So I'm assuming it's only base building, which I'm guessing is only drones. And this is base building and fabrication and mining, basically, all in one, and refining. So when it comes to the crucible and repair, is repair not some form of manufacturing for the most part? Any case, though, I think this is the vehicle that we're looking at. Aegis platform. 14 wheels. Big radar dish or whatever on the back of it, whatever this big antenna's for. I could see this being like you plant it in the ground and this is where the tower gets built. Or I could see it being like this is like a scanner that shows you all of the information while you're driving around. That would also be cool. But I would stick one or two of these in the Liberator. Plop the, like you use your Carracks and stuff, scout out the planet. Boom, boom, boom. You find some resource locations, whatever. Go in, drop the Liberator down, boop, and then unload one of these bad boys. Or maybe you have one of each of these in the Crucible. Take the Crucibles, you separate them into two areas, you plop them down, each of them unload one of these. You build yourself your tower in those areas, and then you start repairing and producing vehicles out of the Crucibles, or you bring them back. I think that would be kind of interesting. I just feel like the Crucible should have more than just repair, you know? You know, and it doesn't need to build bases if it can carry one of these, or if it can build one of these, then it doesn't need to carry, you know, the ability to build, buildings everywhere if it doesn't want to. But it should be able to build vehicles, I think, at least. Because if you're going to land and build a base in a military zone, what do you need? Like, you need defenses, you need supplies. It's going to be a hectic situation trying to do this on a planet. Like, imagine if you didn't have a fleet. You're going to have to ship in supplies somehow, which means you need to take whatever limited amount of vehicles that you have to go and either bring supplies there or to escort supplies in. And then you're going to need to defend your ground base while it's getting built because there's nothing there that's going to be able to protect it. Especially if you're going and getting more supplies or you have to go protect people in space, which is a lot more dangerous, compared to just being on the ground. But if a crucible could land and produce, cyclones or storm AAs or the ballistas and stuff, that would be a big deal in order to protect the base. You unload one of these, you unload a couple of anti-air defenses, you got the crucible there to start producing more protection or like mining vehicles and such, you're good. And then if this thing gets damaged because it's basically the most vital vehicle that you would have in your fleet if you're going to be outside in space for a long time, is being able to build these structures. You want a crucible to be able to repair these because you can't afford to lose them. As soon as someone nukes this, like you land on the ground, someone finds this vehicle and blows it up, and you're just out of the water. You're not going to be able to do anything anymore. But I also like the idea of using a ground vehicle over the ship. Like, look at the comparisons here. Like, if this ground vehicle can produce large buildings, and this spaceship can produce large buildings, this thing is way smaller. So, probably way more stealthy. I like the idea of vehicle convoys on a planet. I don't know what my deal is, and I feel like I require too many people to do any of these ideas that I want to do. But let's say, like, if I decided to send out a fleet and not use the Kraken, right? So we don't use the Kraken, we don't bring the Perseus, we don't bring the Polaris. We just send out like a basic fleet. And you do like two Carracks, a Liberator, two Crucibles, and maybe a Starfarer. So you're looking at 6 ships, potentially could land and build a couple of bases and stuff, drop a bunch of ground vehicles down, just unleash all these ground vehicles, just travel on the ground, figure out where you're going, plop a base down in your ground vehicles, and you're good to go. Get some supplies in there. Now, how many supplies you need to start base building with, I don't know, but like let's say they have like a transport truck that like in the back section here, it's just like a trailer, you can put boxes on it. Maybe you hold, 60 SCU or something on the trailer, or maybe you have a bunch of these tiny vehicles. These are like 4 SCU a piece. So you bring like 10 of those and you have 40 SCU, do like a convoy all the way to your base building location. You're solid. And it even comes even to more like it's more interesting when you think about it because um, it would be nice to have a reason to be on the ground because Ark Survival Evolved had the same like situation when it came to their game. All right, that they wanted to nerf flyers because everyone was using flyers to do everything all the time, and they didn't have the balls to actually pull through with it because they got backlash from the player base, and so they never nerfed the flyers. And what ended up happening was nobody ever messed with ground mounts at all besides like base rating, and that killed a lot of gameplay that could have been in the game because no one stayed on the ground. And if you did try to travel on the ground, since it was never balanced, you were just getting ran over and bum rushed by the biggest dinosaurs every 2 seconds, and it was not fun at all because you could only make it like 5 feet before you had to stop and let all your dinosaurs heal and stuff because there was just too much crap everywhere. So it didn't matter what you did. So this is I think an interesting concept. And if they add more like species of animals and stuff on planets, more dangerous things, and especially I like the concept with the ground worm that you have to like bait it out with a ground vehicle because it basically would make a convoy on the ground not only like a more stealthy option or tool, and I know it's annoying to drive ground vehicles long distances and stuff, but it also would be like a bait to like farm out animals. And depending on how planetary combat works out, if I don't really need Perseus and stuff landing around, because like right now my idea is essentially you bring 2 Perseus and a Polaris with you, and your Kraken escort you to the planet. You use that to like secure your area while you're getting all your bases and stuff set up, and then your Kraken and your Perseus and Polaris would end up being your cargo fleet. They would show up, like you would stay on the planet, you would farm your items, boom, 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 you're good. And then you would bring the Kraken in, load all the stuff up on the Kraken, and then ship it back to where you're supposed to be going. And I think that's going to be the best method that I could do. But if you don't require base defenses, like probably I would leave one Perseus on planet to help defend the base. Because what are you supposed to do if an Idris or a Javelin or something shows up? Or like you need to destroy a worm on the ground and it's massive and you can't deal with it and all your ground vehicles are destroyed. Um, Once you get a production facility up and you get hangars on the ground, though, you don't need your Kraken there anymore. So you could just go and pack it up and then just live out of your ground base until you wanted to do something else. So you'd maybe keep your two Carracks and your Liberator there, your Starfarer, and your Crucibles. You're good. And then if you get repair facilities, you probably don't even need your Crucibles anymore. Just slowly start shipping things back home. Oh, but yeah, I'm probably gonna head off because I got work tomorrow and it's like 1 o'clock. So time flies when you waste time, I guess. Yeah, y'all guys have a good one.